What you know, Alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Tuesday, January 28th. Hope you guys have had a good day. I have to say, y'all, mine haven't been so good. One of my kids has a stomach flu. I've been in the thick of it since 1 a.m. So if your girl goes radio silent for a couple of days, you know it got me. We're going to pick back up on the hearing, the motion to suppress for Kouri Richins, and we're going to go back in time to the very first witness that took the stand. That was Detective Maynard. His testimony was not streamed, but my friend Laura was inside the courtroom and made some notes so we would be able to know what he testified about. They talk about the day of the search warrant on the home. That was April 13th of 2022. He was an advanced observer for that search warrant. He got there before all of the other detectives and watched the home for people. He saw Kouri leave the house, and he was the one that did the traffic stop and detained her while that search warrant was in progress. He had Kouri get out of the vehicle and detained her in the front of his police cruiser. She wasn't under arrest and she was not handcuffed. He did record his interactions with her, and at 9:58 a.m., the video shows a laptop mount in the police cruiser, and then at 10:02 a.m., he notifies dispatch that he's stopping Kouri's car. He has reviewed this video since that day. He mentions Kouri was crying, but he didn't see any tears. Around 21 minutes into the video, former lead detective Woody arrives on scene and walks Kouri to the car with Detective Maynard behind Kouri. He didn't see who reached into the car to get the cell phone. He does know that Detective Woody was the one that handed that phone to him. After he got possession of the phone, Detective Maynard went to the residence, which is around 50 yards as the crow flies around the corner. Kouri also came back to the house and pulled partially into their garage. She got phone numbers from that cell phone, which Detective Maynard still had on his person. He asked Kouri for the passcode, and she gave it. Detective Woody told Kouri she could do whatever she needed at that point. On cross, he told Kouri she was being detained for a minute. The cell phone was in her lap, and he asked her to get out of the car. She left the phone inside her car when she got out. He did not give her the option to leave, and she was not aware she was being recorded. The defense points out there was a 60-second gap between the stop and the video recording starting up. He didn't read Kouri her Miranda rights. During the stop, Kouri asked why didn't they just knock. She asked to call her mom, asked if her sister-in-law was trying to take the house, said that this was embarrassing, asked if she was being arrested, asked what was going on, and asked if this is because her sister-in-law wants all the stuff in the house. The next witness, Mr. Benson, this is Kouri's former brother-in-law. He is the husband to Eric's sister, Katie, and he explains that the trust gained control of the marital home the day Kouri was arrested, which was on May 8th of 2023. After her arrest, they changed the locks and put up surveillance cameras, and he's also monitored all access to the property since that day. Other than law enforcement, they've had family helping to install some of those security cameras in the home, and this was right after Kouri was arrested. Another person who had access is Todd Gabler. He's an investigator retained by the estate who's working for the civil case. Another person that tried to get in the home was from a bank, and it was regarding a lien on the property. This person called a locksmith to try to get access inside the home, but law enforcement was called and they didn't get in. The defense is up and mentions there is civil litigation surrounding the trust and says Kouri has 3 young sons who were at school when their mom was arrested. After Kouri was arrested, a guardian for the kids came to get things for the boys from that house. The guardian, by the way, was not an immediate family member. The witness was there when the guardian came, and the defense asks if there is an order where the kids can go into the home and get things if they need to. The witness says they are allowed to. The defense got confused and thought the boys had been in the home since Kouri's arrest, but the witness said no. She asked if the civil suit investigator, Mr. Gabler, has been assisting the prosecution in Kouri's case by giving reports and interviews. The state objects and says anything he has provided has been from a subpoena. She rephrases the question and the witness confirms it. She asks if Mr. Gabler has authority to be in the home, and the witness says, with me. She asks how many times he's been in, more than 5. The witness really doesn't know, and she asks more than 20. The witness says no more than 20, but more than once or twice. She asked if when he went in the home, was he looking for things that would be helpful for the prosecution? And the witness says, I believe so. State again renews their objection. The defense says there's been 4 search warrants executed on the house since Kouri's arrest, and the witness agrees. The witness was there each time to let law enforcement inside to do the search. How many officers were in the house at a time? And the witness really doesn't know, but says more than one. The defense says you couldn't be with each of them as they searched, and of course, the witness agrees he couldn't. The home is 4,300 square feet with multiple floors. She asked how long the searches took. The witness said it varied based on what they were looking for. She wanted to know if, as the trustee, would they tell him what they were looking for? He said sometimes yes, sometimes no. She asked the witness if he remembers within the last 12 months what they were looking for. He doesn't know. There were a lot of items. She asked if they took things from the home every time. He doesn't know if it was every time, but they would give him a list with the items that were taken when they did. She asks if the first time the house was searched, did it seem to be in disarray afterwards? The state objects and says this is beyond the scope. The judge says he doesn't recall any arguments regarding unreasonable execution of a warrant. The defense says that's not why I'm asking, but the judge tells the defense they need to move on. The defense asks if Eric's sisters, Katie and Amy, have been in the house. The witness says no, not since the funeral. Eric's dad has been on the property since then, but not in the house. She asked the witness if he was in the house the day Kouri was arrested, and he was not. She asked if he was the one who changed the locks. He was not. They hired somebody. She asked if he was at the home during the execution of the search warrants that day. He was not. Do you know how many people were in and out of the house? There's an objection by the state. The judge sustains it and tells the defense again they need to move on. But she says, you were not at the house that day Kouri was arrested. State objects. And the witness said he was at the house. But the judge tells the defense, you're going to have to be more specific and we need to move on. And also tells the attorney she needs to stay reasonably tethered to the motions the defense filed. She asked if there was a lot of people on the property the day Kouri was arrested. The witness says law enforcement, and she asks if there were others. The witness doesn't remember seeing anyone there other than law enforcement and the locksmith the trust hired to change those locks. Were you there the entire day? No. What portion of the day were you there? Half hour? An hour? 6 hours? The witness said as long as it took for the locksmith to change the locks. And she says so at the very end, when law enforcement was finished. The witness believes so. The state says they have no further witnesses on this first motion to suppress statements and evidence. So we get to the next motion, this suppressing the walk the dog letter. The witness, I did not catch his name. The feed started right after a break and it just cut off where the witness was introducing himself. He was one of the officers that searched Kouri's cell. They asked what led to the search on September 13th of 2023. The witness said Kouri had a medical episode and there was a brief search after medical had treated her just to make sure there wasn't any leftover contraband from EMS in her cell, and nothing was found. Shortly after that, on the same day, there was a search after she was seen possibly holding up something for someone on a video chat. Yes, if you're kind of new to the true crime world, inmates can get tablets, and on those, you can do the equivalent of a FaceTime video, text messaging, if money is available for them on the books. He became aware of this when Kouri was away from the jail. They had searched the cell looking for any paper with cursive handwriting on it, and on this day, only her cell was searched. The next day, on September 14th, there was a random cell search of 2 different sections within the detention center, and also with her medical condition, Kouri was going to be moved to another cell for observation. The defense plays video of this search on September 14th. Kouri didn't share a cell with anybody, by the way. She was the only inmate in there. The witness was doing the search as well as gathering Kouri's belongings for her to make that move. On the video, there is an envelope in his hand. It's the one he saw in her cell the day before. The defense asked if that envelope had attorney privilege written on it. He does remember it had Sky Lazzaro's name on it, The defense asked if he would have any reason to disagree. The report said the envelope had attorney privilege on it. He said he didn't see that. He doesn't remember. They play a video of him opening that manila envelope. And inside that, he found court minutes, handwritten cards from kids, no obvious contraband, handwritten notes. He did look through those. There were hundreds of pages in the envelope. After the search, he put the papers back in as best he could and gave that back to Kouri. He said to his knowledge, none of the papers from that were seized. On the video, you see Sergeant Thomas standing outside the door. The defense asks if some of the documents he went through ended up being privileged information. He said yes, but he wasn't reading the papers. The defense says you were going through them and you said hundreds of documents, so you would have to have read some of them to get an idea of what they were. And the witness says correct, but I was inspecting, looking at the heading on it, court paperwork, pretty obvious to the witness. The defense says you determined not to seize any of the documents, and he said correct. They start the video back, and he says he's still looking at the documents that were in the envelope with Sky Lazzaro's name on them. When Sergeant Thomas found the walk the dog letter, he indicated to the witness he may have found something. The witness doesn't remember if Sergeant Thomas said where he found it. He thinks it could have been in a book. The witness himself didn't seize anything from Kouri's cell that day, and he also did not see the LSAT prep book, which is what the state says contained that walk the dog letter and not the manila envelope. The state gets up and asked if he recovered the walk the dog letter. The witness says no. When you were standing at the foot of the bed, were you going through the hundreds of pages in that manila envelope? And the witness says yes. The state asks about the bed in Kouri's cell. It's a 6.5-foot metal bunk, and the witness agrees. The state asks, when you see Sergeant Thomas at the head of the bed, he's about 6.5 feet away from you, and the witness agrees. The defense is back up and asks, did you actually see the sergeant get the walk the dog letter? No, and he doesn't know exactly where it came from. On tomorrow's episode, I'm going to read that walk the dog letter since we will be going over the testimony of Sergeant Thomas, who said he was the one that found that letter. I'm hoping we can finish this up in one more episode. I'm not rushing through this because there's a lot in this hearing. It was lengthy and just one of those hearings where you really don't want to skip too much. So that's it for today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.